It's time for the Glendale Devotional Podcast, a 5-minute weekday devotional ministry from Glendale Baptist Church in Glenn, Mississippi. The speaker is John Haynes. Now, here is Brother John.
We're glad that you're aboard the Bible bus today as we're currently studying Psalm 90 together. It was written by Moses, which makes it the oldest psalm in the Bible. Now, last week we saw in Psalm 90 the shortness of life. Moses gave 5 examples of the brevity of life. Life is like dust, a watch in the night, a flood, a sleep, and grass, all of which points to the fact that life is slipping away. Notice verse 10. Moses wrote, "The days of our lives are 70 years, and if by reason of strength they are 80 years, yet their boast is only labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away." Psalm 90 is believed to have been written after the judgment of God toward his people at a place called Kadesh Barnea. This location was on the edge of the promised land known as Canaan. The people of Israel, with the exception of 2 men, Joshua and Caleb, didn't believe that they could enter into Canaan because of the strength of the people there, even though God had promised them that they would, hence the name, the Promised Land. This lack of faith resulted in God telling Moses that no one over the age of 20, with the exception of Caleb and Joshua, would enter in. The children of Israel wandered in the desert for almost 40 years. Now, doing the math causes us to see the reasoning of a lifespan of 70 to 80 years, as mentioned in verse 10. As the late Warren Wiersbe wrote, add 20 to 40 and you get 60 years. Moses speaks of 70 years as the limit, unless God grants an extra 10 years. The older people in Israel at that time would not live to reach their 80th birthday because of their sins. Note that believing Caleb was 40 years old at Kadesh Barnea and was allowed to enter Canaan at the age of 85. So, context is so important in our reading the Bible. Moses understood the righteous judgment of God. Verse 11 states, "Who has the power of your anger? For as the fear of you, so is your wrath." It is so true that God is love. However, God is also the judge. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 17 states, "For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. And if it begins with us, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God?" The righteous judgment of God is not always proclaimed today. Moses understood that God loves and that he has given unto us all things that pertain to life and godliness. Yet God expects obedience from his children. Proverbs chapter 1 verse 7 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge." So, as verse 11 of our text says, "For as the fear of you, so is your wrath," we note that we should never be afraid of God, but we should be God-fearing. Likewise, we should not view God as one who sits on his throne with a lightning bolt in his hand, seeking to just get somebody. That is not a correct view of God at all. God is a consuming fire, and he is a jealous God. He invites all to come to him that he may give rest, but he will never, ever force his love on you. The people of Israel had been promised rest in the promised land, but they failed to believe and accept this truth. So what are we to do today? The same thing that God has always wanted mankind to do, to choose him. Going back to the fact of the shortness of life, Moses wrote in verse 12, "So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." Dear listener, I tell you today that life is uncertain and brief. Moses asked God to teach his children to number our days. That is, we are to understand that each day is a gift and that we make each day count. After all, even if someone lives to be 100, life is short and fleeting. So leave your mark on this old world with kindness and cling to Jesus Christ. Thanks so much for joining us today. Join us tomorrow at 12:05 p.m. right here on Fun 91. Have a good and godly day.
Thank you for listening each afternoon at 12:05 on Fun 91 for the Glendale Devotional Podcast, presented by Glendale Baptist Church. To learn more about Glendale Baptist Church, please visit their website, gbcglen.com. Their mailing address is P.O. Box 70, Glenn, Mississippi 38846.